The ventilation pipes in this building are always checked periodically every year. However, until today, when the entire pipeline of the building was overhauled, a body like a mummy was discovered after more than 7 years. Today, I will tell you about a murder case that shocked China in 2006. This case not only haunted public opinion at that time about the way the criminals hid their crimes, but also about the fact that the perpetrator of the case was constantly changed, and until now, the final culprit has not been found. Hello, welcome to Unmasked channel, the place to solve the mysteries of strange cases. It has been a long time since the warehouse in the basement of the Beihang office building in Beijing City has been cleaned and repaired. Therefore, at noon today, Mr. Wang, the warehouse manager, decided to come and clean and maintain this B2 basement. After opening the steel mesh of the ventilation duct, he used a flashlight to shine inside. He was surprised to see a human-shaped object. Looking closely, it was indeed a dried-out corpse with only skin covering the bones. It was probably dead for a long time. He immediately called the police. Recalling the scene at that time, Manager Wang said, It looked like a mummy in a horror movie. Very scary. After receiving the report, the police immediately arrived. Through preliminary investigation and information provided by the manager, the police learned that the victim was stuffed more than 10 meters deep inside a 50 centimeters diameter duct. From the red strapless dress and white bra that were still intact, the police judged that the body was a woman. According to the forensic examination, the victim was a girl between 18 and 22 years old. Her head and face were severely injured with a hard object, causing severe facial disfigurement. The forensic doctor also found signs of rape before her death, but the time of death was too long ago for DNA testing. The victim wore painted fingernails and toenails and was wearing relatively high-end clothing. A small bag from a famous luxury brand was found next to the body, containing some cosmetics but no wallet or cash. In addition, a shopping receipt dated 1999 was also found in the bag. The investigator determined that the victim died around 1999, which was either before or after the building was completed that year. Her body was stuffed into a ventilation duct in the basement, immediately dried by the powerful fan. The missing cases that occurred before and after 1999 in Beijing, where the victims had not been found, were also reopened. After reviewing the missing person reports from that year, the police discovered a mysterious missing case that occurred in the same year. It was very likely that it was the missing case of a young woman named Guo Xiaoyue. In order to confirm whether the victim was Guo Xiaoyue or not, the police went to the victim's parents for a DNA test, and they also recognized their daughter through her dress and other relics. The mysterious missing case from that year has now found the victim, but in the end, only a skeleton remained. Guo Xiaoyue, a 19-year-old office worker, disappeared in the building where she worked. Guo Xiaoyue was originally a rich young lady, often wearing branded clothes and driving a private car. She had many admirers because of her good looks and youthfulness. That year, she worked at a company with an office in the Beihang building. On October 6, 1999, while having dinner with her family, Guo Xiaoyue received a call from the company, urging her to come to the support office. That night, she did not return home and did not call home. Her parents thought she had to work overtime overnight, so they did not suspect anything more. The next morning, still unable to contact her, the family asked and learned that Xiaoyue had not come to the company last night. Extremely worried, Xiaoyue's family immediately split up to search. Relatives discovered Xiaoyue's car in the B1 basement parking lot of the building. There was no one in the car and there were no signs of theft. They quickly went to the building's security. From the only surveillance camera at the entrance to the parking lot, they saw Xiaoyue driving at 9 p.m. last night, then disappearing. At this point, her parents began to lose their composure and immediately called the police to report that their daughter had disappeared without a trace. The police also quickly got involved. They realized that the distance from Xiaoyue's parking lot to the stairs leading to the first floor was only about 50 meters. At that time, the building's parking lot did not have an elevator, so they had to walk to the first floor. After many investigations, the police did not discover any unusual situations. They searched all floors of the building but found nothing. After searching everywhere without finding any trace, the police discovered that the warehouse on the B2 floor had been locked. When asked, it was learned that the B2 floor had been locked due to illegal renovations. Once a month, the security guard checked for electrical and water leaks. Only the building owner and the security guard in charge of patrolling the basement had the key. The family did not want to miss any place to find their child, so they went to the security guard to ask to open the door. The security guard of this basement was a 60-year-old man named Wu. Sympathizing with the anxiety of the parents, before the police arrived, he opened the door for the family to check. After that, the police also asked to check again, but neither the police nor the family checked carefully. They forgot to check the pipes. Around 2000, cars were not as popular as they are now. It was the criterion of success and a symbol of wealth at that time. Guo Xiaoyue drove her own car. At first, the police suspected that this was a kidnapping for ransom, but the kidnappers were slow and did not appear to demand ransom as usual. Because Guo Xiaoyue was still young and beautiful, the police suspected that this was a sexual assault. However, the more they investigated, the more the case became deadlocked, and Xiaoyue's whereabouts remained unsolved. In short, she was not found alive, and her body was not found dead. After confirming that the body found in the ventilation pipe in the basement B2 of the Beihang building in 2006 was indeed Guo Xiaoyue, the police reopened the case and investigated all of the victim's colleagues who worked in the building at that time. Because the time of the incident was too long ago, most of the evidence at the scene had been lost. The employees who worked in the Beihang building that year are now scattered all over the country, making it very difficult to trace. The difficulty of the case increased many times over. However, this type of murder has an extremely strong influence. As long as there is a glimmer of hope, the police force must use all their strength to solve the case and arrest the perpetrator. The local police immediately set up a task force and carried out a detailed investigation. Finally, they screened out the group of suspects who were often active around the scene at the time of the crime, including those who were familiar with the area. The police determined that the perpetrator was very familiar with the area. He was able to enter the locked basement B2 and hide the body deep in the ventilation pipe in a hidden corner with no lights. Outside, there was also an iron net that ordinary people would not know could be pulled down. Through interrogation, the police narrowed down a number of suspects. The first suspect was Xiaoyue's superior, Zhang Yuehe. The second was the security guard, Mr. Wu, and the contractor, Lu, both of whom were the only ones with the key to basement B2. The last was a construction worker named Zhao Deiqiang. The first was the victim's boss, Zhang Yuehe. A female colleague said that Zhang Yuehe asked her to call Xiaoyue to come to the company to work overtime. Then he ran down to the parking lot to wait for Xiaoyue to arrive. Zhang Yuehe left the office for about 30 minutes, and when he returned, he said he did not see Xiaoyue. Hearing that Xiaoyue was missing, Zhang Yuehe immediately told the two employees not to talk nonsense, especially not to mention that he had left the office for 30 minutes. The two girls were afraid of getting into trouble, so they hid this information. They also heard that Zhang Yuehe had pursued Xiaoyue, even though he was married and twice her age, but was rejected by her. However, when the police compared the times, they found that they did not match. Xiaoyue received the call at around 7 p.m. and left home after 9 p.m. Surveillance video showed her driving into the basement at around 9:40 p.m. Zhang Yuhe went downstairs at 9:10 p.m. and returned to the office at 9:40 p.m. The time interval between the two was only a few minutes. Even if Zhang Yuhe had met Xiaoyue, he could not have raped her, killed her, and hid her body in such a short period of time. In addition, after returning to the office, Zhang Yuhe did not show any unusual signs. His appearance was still neat. After eliminating suspicions about Zhang Yuhe, the police began to check the people who had the keys to the basement B2.
Người giữ chìa khóa tầng hầm và thường hay ra vào nhất chính là ông Ngô, người bảo vệ khu vực này. Thế nhưng, sau khi kiểm tra, cảnh sát biết được, trong thời gian đó, ông Ngô từng đột quỵ vào năm 1998. Trong thời gian duyệt bị hại, ông vẫn còn di chứng liệt nửa người, đi lại khó khăn, một tay không thể tự do cử động. Điều này không thể đủ khả năng để giết người, đặc biệt là một người trẻ tuổi như vậy.
Next was the contractor, Mr. Liu. He also had the basement key and was responsible for supervising the construction of the B2 floor. However, many people testified that night, Liu and the building owner played mahjong and did not have time to commit the crime. The most likely suspects all had alibis, putting the police in a difficult position. At this point, Mr. Wu provided an important clue. On the night of the murder, he patrolled the parking lot and found 3 workers wandering around smoking with strange expressions. He recognized one of them as Zhao Deiqiang, about 20 years old. When Mr. Wu asked, Zhao said that they had just been drinking and watching porn, couldn't sleep, and wanted to find prostitutes. The next day, when he heard that Xiaoyue was missing, Mr. Wu suspected the 3 workers, but did not report it to the police for fear of retaliation. Recognizing this important information, the police immediately summoned and investigated Zhao Deiqiang. When he was arrested, Chiang was still working for the contractor Liu. He quickly said, "That matter has nothing to do with me." His unusual behavior immediately attracted the attention of the police. Not rushing to confirm that Chiang was the culprit, the police conducted a more thorough investigation of Chiang. The result was not surprising. After 2 days, under the interrogation of the Beijing police, Chiang confessed to participating in the rape and murder in October 1999. The group of perpetrators, in addition to Chiang, included 2 other workers, Wang Fuming and Yang Guanghua. All 3 attacked, raped, and murdered Xiaoyue, then hid her body in the ventilation duct in the B2 basement. In the case report, Zhao Deiqiang stated, "After meeting Mr. Wu, the 3 decided to go out to find prostitutes as they had originally intended. When they arrived at the parking lot, they saw Xiaoyue getting out of the car. Seeing the beautiful young girl, Zhao teased her with vulgar words, so Guo Xiaoyue scolded him, and then she turned and walked towards the stairs. 3 workers chased after her and beat her down with many punches. Xiaoyue kept calling for help, but to no avail. She was carried down to the basement warehouse B2 and raped." After committing the crime, afraid that Xiaoyue would report to the police, the 3 decided to kill her and hide her body in the ventilation duct. Based on the clues provided by Zhao, the police arrested Wang Fuming and Yang. After questioning, both admitted to raping and murdering Xiaoyue. It was thought that they had found the culprit and the case would be closed, but things began to change. After the case was submitted to court, many unusual things were discovered. This case had no evidence other than the confessions of all 3 suspects. If their confessions were similar, especially the details that only the murderer would know, it could prove that they were the culprits. However, the confessions of all 3 had many contradictions in basic details. Zhao and Wang Fuming gave completely different statements about the location of the ventilation pipe that hid the body. Meanwhile, Yang did not tell where the body was hidden and did not mention the ventilation pipe. The method of killing also had a big difference in the statements of the 3 suspects. Wang Fuming said he stabbed the victim many times in the chest and abdomen with a dagger. Yang said he stabbed the girl in the heart with a knife. No one mentioned that the victim was beaten with a hard object in the head and face. Moreover, through the forensic examination, Xiaoyue's body did not have any traces of being stabbed with a sharp weapon. The three suspects also contradicted each other about how Xiaoyue was taken to the warehouse and the order in which she was raped. In particular, no one could explain how they unlocked the door in basement B2. Although all three admitted to being the perpetrators, their statements raised many questions for the investigation team. In 2007, Wang Fuming suddenly died of a cerebral hemorrhage. Zhao Diqiang began to show signs of mental instability. Yang Guanghua spoke unclearly, had dull eyes, and was determined to be mentally disabled. In the following trial, Zhao and Yang withdrew their confessions, saying they were forced to confess and had to make up stories. In 2008, both were acquitted due to insufficient evidence. The case eventually had to be reinvestigated, but almost no evidence was found. Clues such as blood, semen, fingerprints, and footprints had all disappeared 7 years ago. It was thought that after 7 years of disappearance, finding Xiaoyue's body would open up a new result for the mysterious case. But after so many investigations, so many suspects appeared, the real culprit has not been found. Is Xiaoyue's boss really the culprit? Have Xiaoyue's 2 female colleagues told the truth? The 3 men who once admitted to being the culprit, but then retracted their statements, are they hiding something? Thousands of questions are raised after every detail that the police investigate. If the 3 men were not the culprits, why did they admit to the murder just because of the police's threats? Or are they hiding and condoning someone else? Maybe that person is the real culprit. Until now, it has been more than 16 years since the 3 suspects were declared innocent, and it has also been 25 years since Guo Xiaoyue was murdered. Can her family still wait for the day the culprit is caught by the law? What do you think about this case? Do you think the 3 men are the real culprits? Or have you discovered any other interesting details? Leave a comment below the video to let me know. Goodbye, and see you in the next videos. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel to receive the latest notifications about real cases around the world.